We've all known them, those who take more than they give, who twist your light into a shadow, who smile only when you shrink. They don't carry knives, no, but their words cut just as deep. Their presence weighs just as heavy. But what if I told you that you only need to do one thing, just once, to change how they move around you forever? This isn't about fighting back. It's not about screaming louder or running faster. It's about stepping into a power so quiet, so grounded, it rattles them to their core. Stay with me, because by the end of this, you will hold a truth that turns any room you walk into a sanctuary. Let's begin. There comes a time in your life when you must rise from the table where love is no longer being served. You must rise, not because you're angry, not because you're weak, but because something in your soul begins to whisper, "This is not where I bloom." And if you are wise, you will listen. See, people treat you according to the story you allow them to believe. If you keep letting them write chapters in your life with dirty hands, they will. If you keep offering your silence in the face of insult, they will interpret it as permission. We teach people how to treat us, first by what we allow, and finally by what we stop allowing. You don't need to scream. You don't need to explain. You don't need to beg anyone to respect your line. A boundary, when set with quiet certainty, echoes louder than 1,000 pleas. It hums like thunder inside your bones. It doesn't tremble. It doesn't waver. It just is. The problem is, many of us set boundaries like sandcastles, delicate and fleeting, one wave of guilt, one tide of doubt, and suddenly we're backpedaling, apologizing for choosing ourselves. But to draw the line once and mean it, you must understand this. Your boundary is not cruelty. It is clarity. It is not rejection. It is protection, not from others, but for yourself. To draw the line once and mean it means you no longer need repeated offense to justify your departure. Once is enough. The moment you feel your spirit bend in unnatural ways to accommodate someone's comfort, that is the moment to stop. Not when they hurt you again. Not when they apologize in trembling words, only to repeat the sin. The moment your peace is disturbed, your line must rise like a wall, not to imprison, but to preserve. People will test your limits, not because they don't understand you, but because they want to see if you understand yourself. They push, not to find the edge, but to see if it moves. And if it moves once, it will move again. But if it stands firm, calm, unwavering, still, they will either shift their step or leave your space entirely. Either way, you win. You see, this is not about being cold. It's about being clear. Love is not measured by how much you're willing to suffer. It is not earned through silence or sacrifice. The people meant for you will honor your boundary like sacred ground. They will not need it carved in stone. They will hear it in the timbre of your voice, see it in the way you carry yourself, feel it in the way you don't over-explain. The power in drawing the line once is that it requires deep knowing. It means you've spent time with yourself, enough time to say, this is what I will not accept. This is who I refuse to become in the name of keeping company. This is how I protect my joy. And the moment you choose that, choose you, something remarkable happens. The right people stay. The wrong ones don't even bother knocking. You'll find that your life starts to quiet, not with loneliness, but with peace. You'll stop being a magnet for chaos because you no longer speak the language of tolerance for pain disguised as love. And yes, it will be hard at first. You will shake. You will question. You will wonder if maybe you're overreacting, if maybe they didn't mean it like that, if maybe you should give them one more chance. But then you'll remember every time your spirit crumpled just a little under their gaze. Every time your voice was dismissed like wind through leaves. Every time you played small so someone else could feel big. No more. Draw the line once, not in sand, in stone, in spirit, in silence that cannot be coaxed into compromise. Draw it and walk it and let the world adjust. There will be some who call you difficult. Let them. Some who say you've changed. Say thank you. Some who turn their backs. Let them go. The ones who matter will never ask you to sacrifice yourself to prove your worth. And the ones who do, well, they were never meant to sit at your table anyway. You are not a door to be walked through. You are not a rug to collect footprints. You are a temple. You are a garden. You are a wild flame. Treat yourself as such and watch the world shift around the fire you become. Draw the line once and mean it. There is a moment in every life when you must decide, will you carry your pain like a chain or wear your healing like a crown? Too many of us have been taught that suffering is a garment we are meant to wear until it dissolves. But suffering, my dear, is not meant to be worn. It is meant to be outgrown. You are not what happened to you. You are what you chose to become after it. Pain may visit, yes. It may sit in your house uninvited, track mud across your kitchen floor, whisper shame in the corners of your mind. But you do not need to give it a bed. You do not need to feed it breakfast. You do not need to make a home inside your hurt. You are not a victim unless you let the wound define you more than the wisdom it gave you. It is easy, so easy, to stay small in the face of what broke you, to stay curled inward like a question, to use your trauma as a reason not to rise. People will even applaud you for it, say, look how much she endured, as if endurance is the same as elevation. But endurance without transformation is just surviving, and you were not born to survive. You were born to soar. You see, playing the victim hands your power to the very people who once hurt you. Every time you say, they ruined me, you tie yourself to the moment they did. Every time you repeat the story where you are only the one who was wronged, you forget the part where you stood back up, shook off the dust, and moved forward. Don't leave that chapter out. That's the chapter where your strength was born. And hear me clearly, this is not about denying the truth. What was done to you was real. The betrayal, the silence, the abandonment, the manipulation, the violence. I do not ask you to pretend it didn't happen. I ask you not to let it shape what you become. They don't get to build your future with the bricks of your past, not unless you give them your hands. There is power in saying, this happened, it hurt, and I still choose to grow. There is power in looking at your reflection and seeing not just the one who suffered, but the one who survived, the one who learned to breathe in rooms where she once choked, the one who danced again even with scarred feet. When you refuse the role of the victim, you rewrite the script. No longer the background character in someone else's drama, no longer waiting for an apology that will never come, no longer carrying their shame on your shoulders like it was ever yours to hold. You step forward and you say, this is my story now, and I get to decide how it unfolds. The world might not cheer for this moment. There is a kind of sympathy people love to give when you are broken. But there is something rarer, something quieter, more sacred than sympathy, and that is self-respect. It doesn't need applause. It doesn't need validation. It just stands quietly, steadily, and says, I will not be defined by what hurt me. I will be known by how I healed. People may not understand. That's all right. Healing is not for their comfort. Refusing to be a victim does not mean pretending you were never hurt. It means choosing not to carry it like a flag. It means not letting it become the loudest part of who you are. It means no longer making your suffering your introduction. Because the truth is, the most powerful people you'll ever meet are not the loudest ones in the room. They are the ones who carry pain with grace, who walk through fire and still smell like hope, who speak with a voice that once trembled and now sings. They've learned the secret. When you refuse to be a victim, you don't erase your past. You rise above it, and rising, my love, is the most radical thing you can do. Refusing the role of the victim means reclaiming your narrative. It means loving yourself enough to say, they may have wounded me, but they did not win. It means forgiving, not because they deserve it, but because you deserve peace. It means walking forward even when your legs still shake, speaking truth even when your voice is soft, standing tall even if the world only remembers you for how you fell. But you'll know, you'll remember. You'll see your reflection one day and smile, not because you were never hurt, but because you refused to stay broken. And that, my dear, is strength. Not the kind that shouts, the kind that endures, that heals, that chooses to rise. There comes a time when your soul no longer wishes to argue, no longer aches to be understood by those who refuse to listen the first 100 times, no longer begs to be seen by eyes that were never looking in your direction. It simply wants peace, and peace, my dear, is not found in chaos. Peace is found in the quiet exit, the clean goodbye, the kind of leaving that does not slam doors but closes them gently for your own sake. There's a belief we are taught that to leave something behind, especially someone who once held our heart, we must make noise, that we must explain, perform, defend our right to walk away. But you don't owe anyone a spectacle. You don't need to set fire to the bridge. You don't need to curse their name or recount every bruise they gave you. Dignity is not in the fire. It is in the grace of your silence. It is in the strength of not needing to be loud in order to be free. You see, drama feeds on attention. It grows with every retelling, every text, every confrontation. But dignity does not require an audience. Dignity is the quiet way your hand loosens its grip on what no longer grows you. It is the way you walk out of a room with your head high, even if your heart still stumbles behind. It is knowing you are not abandoning them. You are returning to yourself. There will be voices, of course. Some within you, some outside, whispering, "Don't you want closure?" But closure does not come from them. It comes from the moment you realize you were waiting for someone to undo a damage they had no intention of ever making right. Closure is not found in another conversation. It is found in the pause where you finally stop chasing the end of a story that should have ended long ago. And yes, you will feel tempted to go back, to say one more thing, to answer the message, to defend your choices. But remember this, the more you explain, the more you stay entangled. Detachment is not a war, it is a surrender, not to them, but to your own peace. You stop showing up to a battlefield where no one ever fought fair. Detachment does not mean you no longer care. It does not mean you are cold or indifferent. It means you love yourself enough to walk away from what has become a prison for your spirit. You stop making excuses for their behavior. You stop interpreting crumbs as kindness. You stop building homes in places where you are only ever a guest. It takes great courage to choose quiet over chaos, to sit with the ache instead of numbing it with more arguments, more chances, more hope. But when you do, when you choose to leave with grace instead of fire, you begin to hear yourself again. You hear the part of you that says, you are not too much, you are just no longer in the right place. And let me tell you something. When you walk away with dignity, the people who once fed on your reaction will starve. They won't know what to do with your silence. They'll call it cold. They'll call it dramatic. They'll say you never cared. Let them. Their confusion is not your burden. Your peace does not require their understanding. You will feel lonely sometimes. That's true. There is a grief that comes with releasing what once felt like love. But not everything that felt good was good for you. Some things only felt like love because we were starving. And now you are learning how to be full on your own. That is what detachment is. It's not about erasing the memory. It's about honoring yourself enough to no longer live inside it. Detach with dignity. Let your healing be quiet. Let your strength be still. There is no need to win an argument when your peace is already the prize. You do not need to speak louder to be right. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is nothing at all, because those who truly know your worth will never need to be reminded of it. And those who forgot it, let them go, quietly, completely, without bitterness, without applause. Just like that, because you, my dear, are not a performer. You are not a page in someone else's script. You are the author now. And this next chapter, it begins in silence, with your hand on the door and your heart finally free. There are some things in life too sacred to be placed on the table for negotiation. Your peace is one of them. It is not a favor someone grants you. It is not a gift you borrow until someone else says it's time to return it. Your peace is not a shared possession, not a space for public debate, not a trophy to be handed over every time someone disagrees with the way you live your truth. Peace is a quiet room inside you. It is the place you retreat to when the world becomes too loud. And for far too long, you've let people walk in with muddy shoes and careless voices, rearranging your furniture, drawing curtains on your light. You've let them speak too loudly in rooms that belong only to you, not because you didn't value your peace, but because somewhere along the way you were taught to put others first, even if it cost you your calm. You were taught that to be good meant to be agreeable, that to be kind meant to be accommodating, that love meant making room, even when you were already shrinking just to fit in your own life. But peace does not thrive in a house that keeps making itself smaller for other people's comfort. Peace needs space, space to breathe, space to be still, space to stretch without apology. And one day you will reach the moment where the discomfort of pleasing others becomes heavier than the discomfort of disappointing them. And in that moment, you will choose peace. Not because you are cruel, not because you no longer care, but because you finally do. When you begin to guard your peace, the world may resist. Some will call you selfish. Some will say you've changed. They will ask why you no longer answer every call, respond to every chaos, fix every fire that doesn't belong to you. Let them ask. You are no longer in the business of explaining why you will no longer abandon yourself for the sake of being liked, because your peace is not up for discussion. It is not something you ask permission to keep. It does not belong to your boss, your lover, your friend, your family. It is yours. It is earned through every hard choice, every boundary set, every no spoken with trembling lips, but unwavering truth. And anyone who truly values you will never demand you sacrifice it to prove your loyalty. Sometimes the most radical thing you can do is choose not to participate, to not reply, to not attend every argument you're invited to not correct every lie, chase every misunderstanding, or defend every version of yourself someone creates in their mind. Because your peace does not live in proving a point. It lives in knowing who you are, even when no one else claps for it. Peace is a commitment, and like all commitments, it requires protecting. That means saying no when you're tired. That means ending conversations that leave you drained. That means walking away when you feel yourself shrinking. That means removing yourself quietly and completely from situations that disrupt your soul. And here's what they don't tell you. Once you begin to honor your peace, you begin to attract people who do the same. The ones who come into your life not to stir the waters, but to still them. The ones who do not expect you to perform for your worth. The ones who sit with you in silence and still make you feel heard. These are the ones who understand that your peace is not only your right, it is your foundation. But before you find them, you must first become that person for yourself. You must be the guardian of your own stillness. You must be the one who walks away first. You must be the one who closes the door before it slams. The one who chooses rest over retaliation. the one who does not sacrifice their calm for a moment's satisfaction. This world will offer you many chances to give up your peace. It will tempt you with drama, with urgency, with other people's fires dressed as your responsibility. But you are not a firefighter for emotional arsonists. You are not the emergency room for someone else's recklessness. You are a sanctuary. You are a garden. You are a quiet mountain that does not move just because the wind screams louder. Let them shout. Let them misunderstand. Let them spin their stories. You, my love, stay rooted. Stay still. Because your peace, it is not up for discussion. There comes a point when the noise around you grows too thick, too loud, too tangled with the weight of other people's opinions. Fingers pointed, voices raised, expectations piled like stones on your chest. And it's tempting, isn't it, to blame, to point outward, to name everyone who wronged you, to retell the stories that made you bitter. But if you stand still for just a moment, if you hush the crowd and lean in toward your own breath, you'll hear a truth rise up from deep within you, a truth that says, turn the mirror back to yourself, not because everything is your fault, but because not everything is in your control either, and the only place you will ever find power, real and lasting power, is in your own reflection. That mirror doesn't lie, it does not flatter, it does not bend to comfort. It shows what is there, the light and the shadow, the healing and the harm, the wounds you still cradle, the habits you still excuse, the patterns you keep calling fate. It reflects the part of you that wants to grow and the part of you that clings to what is familiar, even when it hurts. Turning the mirror back to yourself is not an act of shame, it is an act of courage. It says, I'm willing to see myself, not as the world paints me, not through the eyes of my pain, but with the quiet clarity of truth. It says, I will stop chasing healing in someone else's apology. I will stop waiting for peace to come through the mouths of those who caused my suffering. I will stop handing over the keys to my joy and calling it love. When you turn the mirror toward yourself, you begin to ask deeper questions, not, why did they treat me that way, but why did I stay after they did? Not why did they lie, but why did I silence the voice in me that already knew? Not why do they keep hurting me, but why do I keep returning to hands that don't know how to hold me gently? It is easier to blame, to stay angry, to name villains and martyrs in the story of your life. But if you only look out the window, you'll never clean the house inside. And that house, that home within you, deserves your tending. The mirror reveals where your power begins, not in the past, but in the present, not in control over others, but in mastery over your own reactions, your own choices, your own boundaries. That's where freedom lives, not in wishing they'd change, but in choosing who you will become now. Maybe you've been running, maybe you've been avoiding that mirror, afraid of what you might see. But there is no shame in being unfinished. There is no weakness in saying, I have things to unlearn. The strongest people are not the ones who claim to be right all the time. They are the ones who are willing to grow in plain sight. Turn the mirror back to yourself and you will see the places where your silence became your wound, the places where your kindness was a mask for your fear, the times you said yes when your soul was screaming no, the times you confused love with being chosen, no matter the cost. But you'll also see your resilience, your becoming. You'll see how far you've come, even when you stumbled. You'll see the light in your eyes that refused to go out, even when the night tried to swallow you. You'll see the you that you were always meant to be, whole, real, flawed, and free. And when you do, don't turn away. Don't rush to fix, to perfect, to hide. Stand there, hold your own gaze. Tell yourself the truth. Not the one shaped by guilt or regret, but the one shaped by the deep, fierce grace of a person finally ready to come home to themselves. This is not about blame. This is about ownership, not of what was done to you, but of who you choose to become in its aftermath. Because healing doesn't happen when the world changes. It happens when you do. When you stop waiting for permission to be whole. When you stop outsourcing your peace. When you stop rehearsing your pain and start rewriting your power. The mirror, once feared, becomes your friend. It becomes your teacher. It shows you that you are not just the person who suffered. You are the one who survived, the one who learned, the one who still gets to choose what kind of life to build from here. So take a breath, face your reflection, turn the mirror back to yourself. That's where the real work begins. That's where the real freedom lives. There is a difference between healing and forgetting, a difference between peace and permission. You can forgive someone from the deepest part of your spirit and still know better than to let them return. You can release the weight of the hurt, the poison of the grudge, and still close the door they once entered through. Because forgiveness is not an open invitation. It is not a welcome mat for storms you've already survived. To forgive is to let go of what was done so it no longer lives rent-free in your mind. But to invite it back in, to pretend it never raged through your life and tore your calm apart, that is not love. That is not strength. That is a slow forgetting of your own worth. Some storms don't come to teach. Some come to destroy. And when the clouds finally clear, when you've rebuilt your shelter, when your peace returns like sunlight over broken land, you owe it to yourself to remember how much it costs to heal. Not with bitterness, but with wisdom. You forgive for you, not for them, because your heart is not meant to carry the weight of what they did. Forgiveness is not saying it didn't matter. It's saying it mattered, but I choose to live free, free from rage, free from the endless cycle of questions, free from the need for repayment that will never come. But living free also means protecting that freedom. You wouldn't rebuild your home after a hurricane only to leave the windows wide open at the next warning. You wouldn't let the same winds sweep in twice and call it compassion. Wisdom is learning the pattern. Strength is breaking it. There will be people who don't understand. People who say, but if you truly forgave, you wouldn't need distance. Let them misunderstand. They don't know what it took to patch the holes in your soul. They don't know the quiet nights you spent convincing yourself to stop looking back. You can love someone. You can release them from your anger. You can wish them well and still not want them anywhere near the life you're building now. Forgiveness is an internal shift. It is you saying, I will no longer let what they did define how I feel about myself. But boundaries, that is an external vow. That is you saying, I will no longer let what they did define how I allow myself to be treated. You are not hard-hearted because you choose not to return. You are not unforgiving because you choose not to forget. You are not unkind because you prioritize your healing over someone else's comfort. There is no award for allowing people to hurt you again. There is no medal for the most wounded heart. You get to forgive and still walk away. You get to release and still refuse to reopen what once broke you. You get to be kind and still be clear. That door is closed, not out of spite, but out of self-respect. Because peace is not passive. Peace is powerful. It is the quiet decision to no longer dance with chaos just because it knocks in familiar patterns. It is the steady voice in your spirit that says, I wish you well, but not near me, not again. Let them call you distant. Let them say you've changed, you have. That's what healing does. It turns wounds into wisdom. It turns pain into prayer. It turns storms into stories. And you no longer need to relive the same chapter just to prove your heart is still soft. Your heart can be soft and still know when to walk away. Your soul can be forgiving and still know when to close the gate. That is not cruelty. That is clarity. You are not required to keep proving your grace by welcoming what once crushed you. You don't need to make your peace look like approval. You don't need to invite the storm back in just because the sky looks clearer this time. Remember, the last time it looked like love too. You forgave because you deserved freedom, but your freedom deserves protection. So let the storm pass, let the skies clear, let the wind lose your name. But don't wait at the window. Don't answer the knock. Don't forget how long it took to find the calm you now carry. You've already walked through fire. You've already rebuilt with trembling hands. This peace, it's yours now, and it's not up for negotiation. Toxic people don't leave because you yell. They leave when they realize your spirit is no longer accessible to them. The first and final step, choose yourself, fully, once, and without apology. And when you do, you'll see them fade like shadows in the rising sun, not because they changed, but because you did.